Hi, this is Lisa Klein, and we're here again for another edition of The Curve, which is also slash Who Really Cares? Because I'm only interviewing people that I know who really care. Right, Michael? Do you really care?
I do really care.
I know you do. What do you care about?
Today, I care about what it's like to be single in a world that values being in a relationship and tells you that your worth comes from being in a relationship.
Where do we think that insane thought came from, by the way, Michael? We hadn't talked about that, but...
I'm sorry, I'm moving my camera as you ask your question because I want to be in the center. Where
Okay.
did that insane thought come from? It comes from our culture. I can't say over hundreds of years, but certainly as long as I've been alive, and I look at media a lot older than I am, every Hollywood romance, every novel, every television show, all right, maybe not every, there's always some romance, and the happy ending is when two people meet and get together. So I think that's where it comes from.
I blame
Plus,
the patriarchy.
tell me how. How's it patriarchal?
Well, because women didn't have any rights. Like for years, we couldn't vote, we couldn't have a credit card. You had no rights without a man.
You're right.
Yeah,
Yes, multi-determined.
yes. So for
You're
years,
right.
sorry,
Go ahead.
we had to rely on men. So yeah, if you didn't have a man, you were kind of screwed.
So we could say that all these things sort of mix together in a cultural brew, a toxic cultural brew, and infect all of us like a terrible virus, right? Because it's
Yeah.
not just women, right? Men
Well,
also feel like they're nothing if they're not in a relationship some of the time.
do they?
Well, I know that when I was single, I didn't feel very good. So I'll say yes.
Well, because I can only see
Not
it
that
from my...
everyone's the same as I am, but I have plenty of clients who feel that way. You know, more of my male clients, I don't know, are gay than straight. I'm not sure that's true, but I do hear it more from gay men who are single that they really want to be with someone. I don't know what to make of that.
Well, I would say in my small amount of observation that gay men tend to be a little bit more connection with their feelings, whereas straight men, I think they probably feel the same way. They may just not be talking about it as much.
Stereotypical, but very true. Thank you. Boy.
I'm not trying to. I'm not trying to reinforce the gay dudes don't talk about their feelings that much. Let's be honest. So.
Gay dudes or straight dudes?
I'm sorry, straight dudes. Straight dudes.
That's
so yeah. So So I did make a broad, sweeping, stereotypical generalization, but I mean, I feel like men in general may not seek out help in order to figure out what to do about this situation. You know,
Yeah.
I think women tend to seek out more help in general, but yes. Okay, let's go back to the central theme here. So
everything about this theme is fascinating. Where did it come from? How did it develop? Who does it affect? Yeah. I'll say one other thing, that straight men, huge stereotype. And by the way, I think a lot of the straight men I work with do talk about their feelings, but they're in therapy, right? So that makes sense. But this is another stereotype. Women are more interested in relationships than men. It has to do with what you just said about men and feelings and wanting to seem strong and independent, right? So there's more cultural pressure on, I'm getting my terms all mixed up, but on women, I think, to be in a relationship than men for the reasons you mentioned. And then women are putting more pressure on men, and men are like backing off.
Yeah.
And they feel like, oh, I could have my pick, all these people chasing me, and I need some space. Am I making any sense?
No, well, I think going back to the whole, paleo, whatever, women held down the ground, we took care of the camp and the men went off and hunted mammoths. Like women, I think or whatever they were hunting, I think women in general are more home oriented. So when we're making a home, we always we're biologically driven to fill it up, with people. Maybe.
We haven't even gotten started on what we're supposed to talk about. And we already are in such fascinating territory. We could go on for hours, right?
We could.
And you could say that women, this is so biologically, stereotypical, whatever, need a guy to take care of them while they're pregnant, right?
Well, that is absolutely true. Well,
Yeah.
theoretically true. I mean, it's yes. Yeah, theoretically.
And men could
Yes.
just impregnate as many women as they want to sleep with.
Well, yeah, hello. I have this conversation. It's like you have like a million sperm, but one egg.
Oh,
Look at the
the
odds
injustice
there.
of it all.
Is it though? Is it injustice, or is it the fact that I don't know? I mean, I don't make the rules, so it's like,
You're right.
you know, we're biologically in a numbers situation here. Where,
Yes.
you know, where women hold down the fort and then men are off doing whatever they're doing, and that's fine. And, you know, but yeah.
Just the way the universe or our world is set up, right? Yeah. All right. Should we get back to
Sure. Now that we've got
although
to
I hope
sperm
our
and
viewers
egg, let's circle back.
yes, yes. So where do we start? Where do you want to start on this subject?
Well, the first, what?
Singlehood.
Yeah, one thing that you and I had talked about originally, your idea was about how it's especially up on the surface in this time of pandemic, wherein if you're single, you're home a lot by yourself, you know, and it's kind of like, it's not good. I mean, we're not really meant to be this way. And, you know, we're going into 6 months and I see my single friends like starting to unravel. So again, I got really lucky in that I moved and because I was living alone and now I have a roommate who's sometimes here and I have my neighbors who I bonded with and it's saved me, honestly. It's been such a great gift to me to have that community. But I really feel for my friends because I'm constantly like, come over, because, you know, we have our safe little pod here and people cannot be on their own for months at a time. It's torturous, literally.
Yeah. You're right, but it's the hard reality of our situation right now, right? It's kind of dangerous. So you have to weigh your risks, right? There's also the risk of just being completely alone. So if you are single, I think it's a good idea to take some kind of chance, calculated risk, and get together with people you can get together with, close friends, family, meet outside when you can, right? Know something about where each of you are in terms of risk for the virus. So yes, having companionship, animal companionship as well. Some people I know have adopted dogs or cats during this pandemic and are getting so much love and affection from their animal companions. Yeah. The people I know who are going craziest are the people who do not leave their home. Like people I know, for example, live in big condominium buildings and are afraid to get in the elevator at common spaces and they're just almost never leaving. And those are the people who become those paranoid and sad by and large, who I know.
Well, I think it's, you know, like we're trying to avoid a public health crisis, which is, you know, reasonable, but we're creating another public health crisis. So, you know, to tell people that they can, you can go out, you know, the chances of you getting in the elevator and are very small. And, you know, you can go out, you can take walks, you can be outside, you can do small groups. Like you don't have to be completely isolated. Like that's, you know, again, you're going to be creating a whole nother problem that you need to deal with. But anyway, so to circle back, so I think that it's become more poignant in this time where people are home alone or home and having more time for introspection to focus on, you know, just what we talked about was the society and all the drivers to be, you know, coupled and all that and how that's affecting people right now.
Yeah. Let's talk more about pandemic and dating and then go more general. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's hard to date right now. It's hard to meet someone right now. Some people are going online and doing Zoom dates or FaceTime dates and getting to know someone first, which I think is kind of lovely and old fashioned to get to know someone, have some conversations before you actually meet. I always think that there's other ways to meet people besides online, like in real life, volunteering or just going about your life. You never know who you might run into, and that's really very, very hard to do right now, unfortunately.
Right.
Right. So what can you do? Do your best. But that brings us to the larger subject. How do you find a way to feel okay if you're not in a relationship at this time when the possibility of being one might seem less than it usually does, or even less than it usually does?
Right.
Tough
Right.
humor, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, shall I go on?
Sure. I'm all ears.
Okay. So, first of all, how do you find a way to feel okay about yourself in coming back to where we started, in a world that tells you that you're not okay if you're not with someone? I'll say that you have to find a way to believe that you're okay, even if what you think goes against the general, uh, I'm sorry, I'm a little distracted because far off in the distance, I hear my baby, Joshua, just woke up from a nap and he's crying. Eva's taking care of him. So I will pull my mind back to our fascinating topic. You have to find a way to feel okay about yourself, even if other people may not think that you're perfectly fine. And this goes back to another fascinating talk that we did a few weeks ago about differentiation,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Being able to resist outside pressure to hold on to your own shape. In this case, your shape is thinking, I'm good the way I am. It's okay to be single. And then you have to ask yourself, how do I make as rich and rewarding a life for myself as I can, even if I'm not with someone?
Right.
Can I tell a short story?
Please.
Way in like 1990, the early 90s, I was a student in my doctoral program, and I had this amazing supervisor who was helping me to learn how to become a psychologist, April Martin. She's a renowned psychologist in New York. And she said to me once, you know, you have to, I was like desperate for love and pining, and when am I going to meet the one? And seriously, and she said, you have to think of a relationship as the icing on the cake, and the cake has to be really good, or maybe it was gravy, but you follow the thought, right? Everything else has to be good, and the relationship is extra on top. And I thought to myself, well, that's easy for you to say. You've been married for many years, but I've come to realize she was dead on, because you can't count on someone else being there, right? So you have to find a way to feel good on your own. That's just the way life works for all of us. We can't pin everything on one other person. They can't do it for us.
Well, it's funny because I think a lot of people do get into significant relationships and even married under false pretenses, meaning, you know, things are great in the beginning and, you know, it takes you a while to really know the person. And I think we all have this fakakta, you know, Cinderella view of, you know, meeting and falling in love. And I don't know, like I go back to that movie Frozen. Have you seen Frozen?
I did see it a long time ago, yeah.
Okay, so I love that movie because it hit, like, you can't marry somebody you just met, you know, which is basically counter to every Disney movie that ever existed, where they meet and they fall in love and they get married and live happily ever after. And so that's one of the many things I loved about that movie was about how it's just, that's absurd, you know. So I think a lot of us grew up in, you know, watching these, you know, TV shows and the books, and, you know, we're fed this crock of crap about, you know, what we're supposed to do. And it's so funny because I'm single, I'm single. And so
And may I add, you're beautiful, you're brilliant, you have so many fascinating interests, you have a fantastic life, you're an amazing friend, right? You are a capital CATCH.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Michael
For
is
all
also
our
my
viewers
dating
who are-
agent. What? What?
I said, for all our viewers who are listening, if you're interested or you know a fantastic, amazing guy, you might consider Lisa Klein.
Thanks. Anyway, so but I have a lot of single girlfriends, and we pass these articles back and forth that come out, and there was one about how, you know, it was like a list of all the things about single people that seem to be true. Like, we have more interests, we have more friends, we, so you have this whole lifestyle, just not, saying because you have to by necessity, make a life for yourself in a way.
If I have to
So
say, you're able to go beyond what society's telling you and decide for yourself what your life is worth. Then you make a life like that, like you just described, right? Full of friends, interests, activities.
yeah.
That's a great thing to be able to do and not buy into this idea that your life is nothing until you meet the one.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an interesting line, because even though, I have a lot of people, and I know, there's also that background in your mind, like, I want to be in a relation, it's not that we don't want it. It's just that, I don't know, it's kind of an interesting thing. I think I've thought about this a lot because the roles of women have changed so much in the past, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years. Like, we can have babies on our own. We can pretty much, we can have credit cards now and vote, and we can have jobs. And especially in DC, you have all these really smart women who are making it on their own. And it's not that we don't need a guy or want a guy. It's just that the traditional relationship of, I think men, they haven't really moved forward into what it is that we really do want from them. We don't necessarily need someone to support us financially. We want to like have lives, but what we do want is more of that emotional connection.
Yeah.
So I feel like men in my experience have not, like, to move to that level of, she doesn't need me to make sure she can eat, she can feed, what I'm saying? Like, she's not going to starve without me. I don't need material, but what we want is the love and the attention and the support and the care. So it's kind of, in a way, making guys go a little bit deeper into that. I don't know. What do you think about that? Because you've been seeing patients for a long time, and couples.
Well, it's complicated. For starters, I didn't mean to bash the idea of being in a relationship when I said the one, a little bit mockingly,
Okay.
right?
I didn't.
It makes sense to want to be with someone,
yeah,
for all kinds of reasons. But maybe you could think of it like needing versus wanting, that you don't need someone, but it would be really lovely and to have someone in your life, right? That might be a way to think about it. The whole male-female issue, you're touching on a really big point. Like, what is a relationship or marriage for? And yeah, historically, it was not about love and emotional connection. That's been evolving for maybe the last 100 or more years into that. But you could, in the big picture, you could say it's still in a state of flux. We're not that far removed from the 1950s and even 60s, when a lot more women did that. Their job was seen as staying home and raising children. And what do you do if you're not married back then? So I think you could say society is still in a state of flux to some degree about men's expectations versus women. Of course, I don't think of it just that way, because I work with a lot of same-sex couples and individuals where the male-female thing doesn't apply as much. But the majority of the world is heterosexual, and I think you're raising some really great points to think about.
So what have you seen with your male population? I mean, because I'm a woman and I see it and I talk to my girlfriends all the time, we're seeing that guys are not really kicking it in the emotional department. Like, they kind of have, again, like, this outdated idea as to what we're looking for. I know my mom was the first one in her family to go to college, and then, like, she calls me her free spirit.
Wow.
Because I mean, my college boyfriend was ready to get married. I wasn't ready to get married. I wanted to go to PT school. And, it's not that I could be married 5 times over by now, but it wasn't the right person. It wasn't the right time. And, it's a matter of, where are you in your life, and what are you looking for? And, what's the piece that you would like to have in your life? And I think, if I was going to say something, it's that men, like, especially if you've been a woman for a while, that doesn't sound right. What I meant was, especially if you've been a woman who's been, out in the workforce, and you can support, like, you can be on your own, so we don't necessarily need a guy, again, even to have kids anymore. We don't need that, you know.
Yeah.
But what we want is, we want somebody who has our back. We want someone who can emotionally, that's what we want more than anything else. I mean, yeah, the physical stuff's nice, but it's not as important, I think, anymore.
Yeah.
But no, I guess my question to you is, when you were talking to your clients, are men getting that? Like, where the men who are single, like, I don't know, just do you have any insight on that?
I have some thoughts about it, sure. Again, you're touching on so many fantastic issues. We could have like 100 of these, right?
And
so
I think we might, because we're in this goddamn pandemic.
yeah, think about how everything I'm saying is, of course, a huge stereotype, but men or boys are raised, right, not to cry and be strong, and
Right.
it has an effect on shaping men by and large to be uncomfortable with feelings of vulnerability, right, which is problematic for a relationship, which is about two people having an intimate relationship. Intimacy here meaning letting someone know you well and knowing them well, means vulnerability, means that something that a lot of men are uncomfortable with. So there you go. I could end the point right there, right? It's problematic, stereotypical, but also problematic. What am I hearing from, again, men I work with are coming to me in part because they want to be able to open up more and be able to be more vulnerable and challenge what they've been taught is not okay or is okay for men. So I think your points are dead on.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Validated by an actual psychologist. There we go.
That's me.
There we are. I'm not sure if I pointed in the right direction, but there you go.
But I'll make it even broader. You know, now we're talking more about relationships and being single, but being in a relationship is, I'd say, uncomfortable and scary in some ways. It has its pluses for sure, right? But being vulnerable is uncomfortable, and getting your heart broken, which happens in all relationships, I'd say, at times, you can heal from it, but it happens, is painful, right? So in some ways, it's easier to push all that away and not let yourself be vulnerable, whether you're a man or a woman, I think. Yeah. Go ahead.
No, somebody I dated years ago, and he just wouldn't, he was kind of a love avoidant, commitment phobe kind of guy.
Yeah.
And, and I was like, what? And he said, he's like, it's safer.
Yeah. It makes me, go ahead.
You're losing this, but yeah, okay, you be safe, my friend.
Yep. Right. You're safe, but then you never, life, what Helen Keller said, life is either a daring adventure or nothing. Meaning that's what life is about. It's about taking risk. If you're alive, you have to take risks, or else your life is nothing.
Right.
Right? Yeah, so you can stay safe and have very small life. Right? You can take risks, but you have to know that they're not always going to work out also. But you're raising another great point, which makes me think, those of us, I'll include me, because there have been times in life I've been single. You have to wonder, sometimes, even without realizing, you may be pushing people away because it has its advantage, which is safety, right? Rather than opening yourself up. So that's something to keep in mind somewhere a little bit off to the side, to challenge yourself when I'm faced with an opportunity to perhaps be partnered or date someone. Is there a little bit of me that might be thinking, my life's okay as it is. Maybe I don't want to take that chance and go out on that limb.
I think
what do you think?
I think we can all be in that space. I think as women, it's unfortunate in the prevalence of male bashing that we tend to do. Not physically bashing, obviously, but maybe, talking about, I want this, and just really talking smack about these guys that we date and everything, all that. But I had a friend of we decided we were going to stop doing that because it's not very productive. And yeah, and one of the things is to realize I have a lot of family members who are guys who are kind of in, like my nephew who I'm close to, who's in his early 20s, and so I've got a bunch of my nephew and then cousins who are men, like graduated from college and going in their 20s. And they are so cute to watch, like how they learn how to adult. Like it's adorable. But they also talk to me because I'm, you know, the older aunt, cousin, whatever. And you start to see how fragile and vulnerable these guys are, which I think escapes a lot of women because we're raised with this, you know, man, macho, you know, vision. And then if something goes wrong, it's like, meh. And you miss the fact about how these guys are just little puddles of mush emotionally. You know, they're very vulnerable. They're very sensitive. And I think as women, we tend to forget that. Like a lot. Because
men come by it honestly. They're taught to be strong and not cry and not show their feelings. Right?
Right. And that's why I think women tend to then blame them for everything.
Yeah.
But that's not right either, women. So, yeah, it's very complex because I think we're dealing with, you know, the way that we were raised and all these ridiculous, you know, Disney movies that we saw as kids and the books that we read and, you know, and then it was the 60s and 70s and the, you know, things are really changing in terms of society and technology and everything. And also financially, because a lot now for, you know, you have to have a 2-income family to survive really in most places. So that's, I think, although that's a whole nother conversation about how the pandemic is stressing those roles now because, you know, who's educating the kids now? Now that's back to the women, you know, but meanwhile, now they have to add that to their list of things to do, you know, work and homeschool the kids, whatever. That's a whole nother show. But anyway, so
although I'm working with a fair number of couples during this pandemic, and I'd say, I don't know that it's, you know, I'm not going to say it's always the woman doing more. I think some couples I hear, the men and women are equally torn up with this and both doing a lot to try to keep the kids learning. And of course, I work with some same-sex couples where they're also struggling with the same thing. So, but I get what you're saying that in the big picture, often or usually women are somewhere in there. Women are doing more than men around educating the kids, but not always, for sure, right? That's not what.
Totally, yeah. And I don't want to be male bashing since I just said I wasn't going to do that. But okay, so circling back, so in terms of pandemic and how it's bringing to light for people who are single, the fact that it is difficult to be on your own all the time, especially now, but also the fact that it is bringing up these thoughts of how it's almost like filling, you know, putting more into that negative opinion about being single because you're not, you know, it's making that worse right now in a way. You know?
Yeah. That I'm going to answer, I want to talk about that, but in a slightly different way, which is something I've noticed with clients, I guess the whole time I've been working, but I wanted to touch on today is, I'll call it selling yourself out to try to be with someone, right? Which is, I'm saying in a very heavy-handed way, but it means like, I'm going to join this group because I might meet someone there, not because I'm actually interested in what they do, or I'll try to be funny in ways that I'm not really, you know, I'll try to represent myself as something I'm not because I think that's more attractive to people. And an extreme version, but I see it a lot. So how extreme is it? People will not really know who they are. I know that sounds dramatic, but I'm just trying to be what people want me to be. So that
that's
I'll
wrong. Let me just make sure you're saying that's right.
I am saying that's sad.
Okay.
You're selling yourself out. Yeah, I agree. Very wrong, right? And figure out Yeah, I think it's a great idea to pursue interest in this and that, which will make you, of course, a more attractive person than if to be in a relationship with other than if all you do is stay home at night and watch reruns or something, right? Not that interesting a person to be in a relationship with, I'd say,
Hmm.
unless you want to be with someone and you enjoy doing that. So I don't even want to criticize sitting and watching TV. However,
Right.
right, it's worth cultivating some interest to make yourself someone who would be interesting to be with in life, but not choosing things because you think they make you look good, as opposed to things you actually want to pursue. That's what I'm talking about.
So do you find with those clients, do you back channel that to, again, childhood and growing up and how they had to navigate family dynamics? Like, because I know that one thing that can happen in families is, if you're not getting that love and attention that you need, sometimes you mold yourself into a version to get, you're just trying to get some love and care. Like, is that connected to
That is
that?
the point, yes. I think it's a both and, right? That what you just said is brilliant. I know that's the second time I'm saying you could be an amazing therapist, right? Today. But in addition, not but, in addition, there's also the whole societal thing saying get in a relationship at any cost. It's the only way to have value. So people are like, what can I do? How can I be popular, right? How can I get someone to date me? Wear these clothes, right? Get this haircut, right? Talk about this, say I went on that vacation, as opposed to being true to yourself, which is the way to have a fulfilling life, right? It's your life to live. Shouldn't you make it meaningful on your terms rather than trying to make yourself into something that you think people will like?
Well, I
This
think
is
this is
bigger. Hmm?
what?
It's like also an issue of popularity and how people live their lives, right? Do you chase other people's accolades or praise, or do you work on making yourself into the person living according to your own values,
Well,
aka integrity?
this is a nice slope right into Instagram and social media and Facebook. And, that, yeah, it's a big problem because it is all about, you can easily get caught into that. And again, I'm older, I'm not in my 20s, but we do Facebook and stuff for the business and Instagram, and it's so easy, and Twitter, and so we go, how many likes? How many likes? Oh, how many? Okay, I need to be, you can get into this very destructive pattern of really chasing, okay, what should I post that people are going to go for? And part of it, business, you do want that, but at the same
Yeah.
time, it becomes this thing that I know people do a lot personally on as well. So, it's all about chasing, your likes and your followers, and it's all about that external kind of validation. So I think it's very, it could be very, yeah, it's feeding into that whole concept of you and your own thoughts about yourself are not enough.
Yep. And external validation is fun, right? Let's
It
face it,
is
it's fun.
fun. Yeah.
But you have to be careful that you don't do it at the expense of internal validation.
Right.
That's, I think, a good rule to follow, right? First of all, it might not always be there, external validation, and it doesn't really fill you up. You know what I mean by that? You feel good
Does
for a
it?
little bit, but
Nothing.
do you say does it?
Well, it fills you up, but then it's like, okay, now you need to match it or get more,
Yeah.
Okay, what am I going to do today?
Like
That was yesterday. What?
go ahead. I talked over you. Go ahead.
Is there? It's like, it's temporary. It doesn't last. And then it's like, okay, what's the next thing to post? And I get, and for the little social media I do, I can definitely get into that where you notice a post hits big and then you're like, okay, now I need to beat it,
Yeah.
and it's really, it can take you over. So I'm doing a social media blackout day today, actually. I'm not looking at anything because it's like, it's too much.
Yes. I said it's like a sugar high as opposed to
Yeah.
internal validation, which is like a really meal that fills you up and nourishes you, right? Long term. It's not an exact analogy. But what you're talking about, it's like it's sort of an addiction, right? To chase other validation. It's kind of like going to a casino and pulling the thing on the slot machine, hoping, you feel great and then let me try again, kind of make more next time.
That's right.
It's like an addiction. Yeah. Doesn't really get you very far.
So maybe to pull the threads together, since we are still mid-pandemica, wherever the hell we are in this whole thing. And if you are single, you know, this is a time to maybe focus on developing those parts of yourself that you haven't been able to since you've been busy with work or travel. I have a lot of friends who, you know, we're all stuck. We're not going anywhere. I mean, this is so unusual for me and for a lot of people that I know who travel a lot. And so, you know, I've tried to take my downtime that I have and do something productive and do something that I've wanted to do for a long time. And so maybe if you are single, this is the time to develop, you know, those parts of yourself that you want to. And then once we can date again, then, you know, bring that forward. I don't know. What do you think?
Brilliant. I think once again, I think
the
all your
third one.
Yes. And I could also say that it's worthwhile for those of us who are in relationships to do the same thing.
Yeah.
Right? That
Right.
all of us should be working on ourselves, as you put it, to pull the best parts of ourselves forward and develop them. What a wonderful concept for living. But yes, for single people right now, rather than sitting home alone, what a sad stereotype, bemoaning, right? Oh, I can't date right now. To have, what's the word, equanimity, right? A sense of equanimity. This is life as is right now. What can I do? What can I do to not feel like a victim, to have power?
Well, everything you'd ever want to know right now is online. So every dance class, every yoga studio, every meditation, like you don't have to leave your house. Like all these things that nobody had time. Oh, I'm not going to go here. I'm not going to go there. You don't have to. All the content's online.
Yeah.
And so it's a really interesting time to be like, okay, I can learn Japanese, or I can learn how to tap dance, or, you know, whatever weird, not even weird, or thing you've always wanted to do, you no longer have to leave your house for, which is kind of interesting, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of wild.
Yeah. Well, make the time to adopt that puppy or kitten that needs a home that I've always said, oh, I don't have, right? And make the world that way. Yeah.
I had a good,
so, yeah, go ahead.
I had a good thing to tie this together and it just went out of my brain.
You already said a great thing to tie
I know,
it
but I
together.
had something to tie it all together. So talk for a minute. I'll see if it comes back.
Actually, I was going to say that crying baby, I'm feeling a little guilty about.
Oh, you got to go. Okay.
I think that I should go help out. But you'll think of it, and we're going to am I your most frequent?
Oh, yes.
I have so much
in
fun
a good
talking.
way.
Thank you.
We should just have the Lisa and Michael show, which we were going to do, and then we didn't do that other version. Remember that? So yeah, we can have the Lisa and Michael relationship hour.
Yeah. Well, originally it was going to be live from the swamp, talking about the horrors of the political situation.
We were going to do that, and we felt that it was bad for our businesses. Height of irony, that is, Michael. That is what you call ironic. Had we done that TV show?
So you'll think of we'll come back to this on some very similar conversation soon, right?
Yeah, I think the bottom line is basically that if this is an opportunity to take to expand your horizons in one way or the other, and then, you know, much like that movie Groundhog Day, you know, at some point we'll be out of this, and, you know, he got the girl when he became the person he wanted to be without trying to get the girl, you know, and so this is kind of, we're in our own little version of Groundhog Day right now.
Yes.
In many ways.
But I'll say one more point, that we should all think of this, right? Working on ourselves, becoming the best version of ourselves that we can be. Not that the payoff will be that we'll find someone, because there are no guarantees, and we also have to do it for ourselves, right?
I remembered my point.
Yeah.
Sorry, this will be fast. So one of my first jobs as a physical therapist was I did home health care. So I got to see people in their homes and all over parts of the country. And one thing that really struck me was that some people at some point get into a rut. And it's you go into people's houses and like nothing's changed in 50, you know, and you just see how people so often just rut it out. And that to me was like almost worse than dying. You know, just getting into this rut where you just live the same way for all these years. I was like, ugh. So, you know, my whole life is about, you know, I'm constantly changing, constantly moving, constantly evolving. And I think that's kind of the key to being healthy and happy in your life, is that even if you are married, just constantly evolve. Like,
Yep.
don't stay stagnant. You got to keep moving.
Yeah. Wow.
Is
Wow.
that
I
my
mean it.
fourth brilliant comment?
Brilliant. This gal is brilliant. Yes. Yes. And you live by that, Lisa. I've known you
I do.
for a long time, as we said,
A long
since
time.
2000, since we were teenagers, and
Exactly.
in 2003.
Pretty much.
And you have, you know, you're always filling your life with new and fascinating activities. So, and reading. So,
Mhm.
yes, you live by. You're walking the walk, not just talking the talk.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All
Okay, so
right.
we
A
will
pleasure
do
as always.
it was. Viewers, I hope this is helpful for you. And hey, if you guys have any things you want us to talk about, feel free to email
Oh,
Lisa.
yeah.
How's that?
You can do
All right?
comments on the YouTube, on the video.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes, yes.
All right.
Okay.
Until the
Take
next
care.
time. Love ya.
Stay well. Bye-bye. Lots of love.
Bye.
Bye.